Jah had one of these absolute laws where you could not take anything that was devoted for destruction, take possession of it, and then think that God, Jah, would be with the people. And even though only one person out of that whole entire body of people transgressed, that transgression fell onto the whole entire body. We're going to review that today because you guys were supposed to have this discourse on this. And I want to know, what did you decide? And then I'm going to bring to you to mind an update of what's been happening with what we've been praying for in regards to the survivors and their freedom from bondage. So, let's start off with a couple scriptural reminders on our relationship with Jah and why it was important that we remain in union with Christ, in union with Jah, and what that means for us and a relationship on the way. And that's our spiritual name, the way. And so here's what the early days of Deuteronomy was instructing us to do. In verse 17, as ministers, as future leaders of the congregations, it reads, "You must not be partial in judgment. You should hear the little one the same as the great one. You must not become frightened because of a man, for the judgment belongs to God. And in case that is too hard for you, you should present to me, and I must hear it." Okay? So these are the early days of the scriptural reminders that Jah is giving us. Keep that in mind. And then there's verse 7. Again, it's that scriptural reminders of what happened in Achan, that nothing needed to be taken that was devoted from for destruction from a people or group that was devoted for destruction. Verse 7, "You must never have any other gods against my face." That's in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 7. And then verse 32, that same chapter, it says, "And you people must take care to do just as Jah your God has commanded you. You must not turn to the right or to the left." And then Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 through 7, it states, "Listen, O Israel, Jah our God is one Jah, and you must love Jah your God with your whole heart and all your soul and all your vital force. And these words that I am commanding you today must prove to be in your heart. And you must inculcate them in your sons and speak to them when you sit in your house, when you walk on the road, and when you lie down, and when you get up." So this had to be taught to our young ones as well. And then there's a scriptural reminder in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 13, where it reads, "Jah your God you should fear, and him you should serve, and by his name you should swear." And then we have here in Deuteronomy chapter 7 a reminder of what a graven image is. Now, this talked about an image, but it's also talking about idol worship. And idol worship in our day and time could be anything that we devote to in place of God, where we spend all our time in 24/7 as our meal time, our daytime, our evening time. That should be devoted to God, but this exclusively has our attention. And verse 25, the graven images of their gods you should burn in the fire. You must not desire the silver and gold upon them, nor indeed take it for yourself, for fear you may be ensnared by it, for it is a thing detestable to Jah, your God. Verse 26 of Deuteronomy chapter 7. And you must not bring a detestable thing into your house and actually become a thing devoted to destruction like it. You should thoroughly loathe it and absolutely detest it, because it is something devoted to destruction. All right. And then I want to bring you the scriptural reminder of this, why God called his people to be holy. God wanted his people to be holy so that we would manifest God. Even though we're imperfect humans, there's nothing imperfect about us except for our decisions. You know, Adam, you look at what happened to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were perfect. There was nothing wrong with them, except for when they erred and they partook of something they should not have partook in. But there was nothing imperfect about them. So our decision making and what lure us into temptation, we have control over that. And so we may make mistakes, but we're not imperfect. We're capable, fully capable of doing what God requires of us at all times. Sometimes we just lack the will. So just bringing back to reminders in Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 19 and 20, you must not pervert judgment. You must not be partial or accept a bribe, for the bribe blinds the eyes of wise ones and distort the words of righteous ones. Verse 20, justice you should pursue, in order that you may keep alive and may indeed take possession of the land that Jah, your God, is giving you. So this in part tells us that justice is life-preserving, no matter what circumstances we may find ourselves in. Their circumstances, it was to secure land. In our circumstances is to maintain our own life. Our own life. And also includes our own salvation. Okay? And so this is very important. And this is Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 16. Okay? And it reads, in case a witness scheming violence should rise up against a man to bring a charge of revolt against him, the two men who have the dispute must also stand before Jah, before the priests, the judges who will be acting in those days. And the judges must search thoroughly, and if the witness is a false witness and has brought forth a false charge against his brother, Verse 19, you must also do to him just as he has schemed to do to his brother, and you must clear away what is bad in your midst. So those who remain will hear and be afraid, and they will never again do anything bad like this in your midst. Do you understand what this scripture is saying? Now, I want you guys to think about this, particularly the survivors and those early fledglings. Do you understand what this scripture is saying? And so the question does that mean that the priest is responding, the priests and the judges are responding in kind because someone plotted against someone to do violence and it was uncovered, and now Jah is charging the priests and the judges that the same plot that was done to them will be done to those who plotted against this person? Does that mean that the priests and judges are responding in kind? And if so, is that a good thing or a bad thing in Jah Allah's eyes according to the scriptures? Question number 2. Since this is involving scheming violence, we don't know what kind of scheming violence it is. We don't know if it's fatal. We don't know if it's sexual. All we know is scheming violence. And the priests and the judges must allow what was going to happen to one individual happen to the schemers. To the schemers. Are the judges and the priests to be judged as murderers? Or are the schemers supposed to be schemers of violence are supposed to be judged as murderers? So keep this scripture in mind. And then we get to the scripture reminder of Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 19. And in that it reads, He will put you high above all the other nations that he has made, resulting in praise and reputation and beauty, while you prove yourself a people holy to Jah your God, just as he has promised. So we always have to prove ourselves worthy to Jah. That is the onus on us on the way, of the way. And because of that, if we keep on the way, verse 13 of Deuteronomy chapter 28, and Jah will indeed put you at the head and not at the tail, and you must come to be only on top, and you will not come to be on the bottom. Because you keep obeying the commandments of Jah your God, which I am commanding you today to observe and to do. I need you to put an asterisk around the scriptures because we're going to circle back on that. You know, does that mean in all circumstances? Does that mean we won't experience bad times? And then we get to the blessings and curses of Jah if we fail to follow Jah Allah's commandments. And it is true of today as it was back then. Now, does that mean, since we're very much removed from, those who escaped from Egypt, maybe twice over, 10 times over, does that mean that we don't fall under these restrictions? And here's the scripture in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. All these maledictions will certainly come upon you and pursue you and overtake you until you have been annihilated, because you did not listen to the voice of Jah, your God, by keeping his commandments and his statutes that he commanded you. So, we're going to end this round table here. And I want you to answer the question, have this discourse among yourselves as future leaders, and what this means moving forward.